Welcome to this week's Deep Dive. You might remember in our last one, we just briefly touched on a topic that clearly hit a nerve for so many of you.
Beer. It really did.
Well, that brief mention sparked, honestly, an incredible amount of curiosity, a flurry of questions from listeners. So we felt we had no choice, really, but to dedicate an entire deep dive just to this.
Makes sense.
Today, we're taking an unfiltered, comprehensive look at beer and gout. It's a subject, often shrouded in really outdated advice, persistent myths.
Oh, absolutely.
And this misinformation, for far too long, has left many of you feeling, confused, frustrated, maybe even a little deprived, right?
Mm-hmm.
Especially when you're navigating the painful realities, the mobility issues that can come with gout. It's tough.
Precisely. For decades, the message to gout sufferers, and look, also to their caregivers trying hard to support them, it's been this unequivocal blanket prohibition, avoid beer at all costs.
Just flat out no.
Exactly. And this sweeping advice, it's been incredibly limiting. It leads many to think that managing a gout-friendly diet means accepting, a bland, sort of joyless existence.
Yeah, that's the perception.
Our mission today is to cut through that old, often, frankly, unscientific advice. We're here to bring some much-needed clarity, grounded in the latest science, and crucially, to offer genuinely actionable tips.
Practical stuff.
Yes. We want to show you that managing gout effectively, especially through your diet, doesn't have to mean sacrificing all enjoyable options. It's really about making informed choices.
Okay, so if you or someone you care for is grappling with gout, and you've ever found yourself wondering if a cold brew is truly completely off limits, or maybe you just want to grasp the intricate science behind how beer impacts uric acid levels, then you are absolutely in the right place. Get ready, because we're about to unpack this with precision and hopefully give you some real-world tools for your well-being, I guess. Unpacking the gout-beer connection. Setting the record straight. Okay, let's get right down to it. For so long, the conventional wisdom, the sort of standard advice about beer and gout, it's been overly simplistic, hasn't it?
Very much so.
Often leading to unnecessary restrictions and, like we said, that feeling of missing out, social events, simple pleasures.
Yeah.
But what really causes gout flares when it comes to beer? Is it as simple as just alcohol is bad?
That's the common refrain, but no.
It's time to bust some of these long-held myths, get right to the core of the issue. Because understanding the truth, that can really empower your choices.
And what's truly fascinating here is just how widespread these misconceptions have become. They're deeply ingrained, in popular thinking, even though scientific understanding has moved on quite a bit.
Right. The science is ahead of the common advice.
It's a classic case, yeah. Common wisdom just hasn't kept pace with the research. So, we're going to tackle 4 major myths head-on, because for anyone managing gout or helping someone who is, understanding these distinctions is absolutely crucial. These aren't just like academic points, they directly impact your quality of life.
Okay, let's do it. Myth number 1, and myth 1, it's the alcohol, not the beer itself.
Okay, this is a big one. While alcohol does undeniably contribute to gout through its metabolic effects, and we'll definitely dive into those mechanisms soon, it's not the main story with beer. The primary culprit, the real heavy hitter, the overwhelming factor in beer when it comes to gout risk, it's the extraordinarily high purine content.
Purines.
That's where the vast majority of the uric acid burden originates directly. It's the direct conversion of these specific compounds found abundantly in beer that makes it so potent.
Right. And here's where it gets, I think, particularly eye-opening. It might just completely reframe how you think about this. Beer contains anywhere from, get this, 10 to 50 times more purines than either wine or spirits.
10 to 50 times. It's huge.
To put that in perspective, imagine a small serving of each. A single beer, just 100 milliliters, which is less than half a can, can have 7 to 13.5 milligrams of purines. Now, compare that to wine and spirits. They typically contain a mere 0.2 to 1.4 milligrams per 100 milliliters.
Tiny in comparison.
That difference isn't just large, it's monumental. It clearly shows beer is in a league of its own for curing load.
Exactly. Purines are direct precursors to uric acid.
So it's not just an alcoholic beverage, it's a purine-rich alcoholic beverage. That's the key distinction.
Precisely. B-myth 2. All alcoholic beverages are equally bad for gout. This generalization is just, It's simply not true. And it's a misconception that's caused, I think, immense frustration and unnecessary restriction for so many gout sufferers.
I can imagine you just feel like everything's off limits.
Right. But beer is uniquely problematic specifically because of that high purine profile we just discussed. Large-scale epidemiological studies, these are the ones tracking thousands, even hundreds of thousands of people over many years, they consistently, powerfully show that traditional beer significantly increases gout risk. And here's the kicker. At any dose. Even relatively small, occasional amounts.
Any dose. Wow.
This consistent finding across vast populations really highlights its distinct impact compared to other drinks.
That's a truly surprising twist for many, isn't it? You just assume alcohol equals gout flare. But it sounds like there's a real spectrum here. In fact, some of these studies, astonishingly, even suggest that moderate wine consumption might actually be protective.
Yes, that's what some data suggests. It's intriguing. The exact mechanisms aren't fully pinned down, maybe antioxidants like resveratrol, maybe different metabolic pathways.
But the data points that way sometimes.
It does. Think about this concrete example. In these big studies, beer drinkers have been observed to have a 55% higher gout risk per pint daily compared to wine drinkers.
55% higher. That's significant.
And the surprise factor again, wine drinkers with moderate consumption sometimes show a reduced risk.
Reduced. That really turns the conventional wisdom on its head.
It does. It suggests not all moderation is created equal. And in some cases, specific choices might even offer a surprising benefit.
So we have to look beyond just alcohol and get into the specifics, move away from that blanket ban thinking.
Exactly. It's about nuanced science, not broad strokes. See myth 3, non-alcoholic beer is safer for gout. Ah, yes, the non-alcoholic option. This is a critically important point for so many people genuinely trying to make healthier choices. Or maybe they just want the flavor, the social aspect of beer without the alcohol. It's a very logical assumption.
No.
Remove the alcohol, remove the risk.
Makes perfect sense on the surface.
But this assumption is often incorrect. In a really counterintuitive turn, many non-alcoholic beers actually contain higher purine levels than their alcoholic counterparts.
Higher. How does that happen?
Well, the process used to remove the alcohol.
Dealcoholization.
Exactly. It can sometimes concentrate the remaining components, including the purines. The liquid volume decreases, but the purines stay behind.
So you're taking the alcohol out, but inadvertently boosting the purine concentration. That's like a cruel trick of chemistry.
It can be, yes. This myth can tragically lead people to make choices that actually worsen their condition. They think they're being safe.
But they're unknowingly consuming a hidden purine bomb.
Precisely. So unless a non-alcoholic beer is specifically engineered and labeled as purine-free or significantly low purine, and we will get into those exciting options later, it's generally not a safe bet if you're actively managing out.
Okay, vital point. Don't just assume non-alcoholic means gout-friendly. You've got to look closer.
Absolutely. Check labels, or better yet, seek out the specifically engineered low purine options. D-myth 4. The sugar in beer causes gout. Woohoo! Right, the sugar question. Now, it's true that fructose, a type of sugar, can contribute to uric acid production in the body. It does this through certain metabolic pathways, primarily by affecting ATP, the cell's energy currency, which can lead to increased purine breakdown.
Okay, so there is a connection.
There is a connection, yes. But when it comes to beer, its sugar content has a truly minimal impact compared to its massive purine load. The amount of simple sugar, like glucose or fructose, in most beers is relatively small, especially when you stack it up against the direct purine contribution.
So if I'm hearing you right, even though we're always told to watch sugar for general health.
Which is good advice, generally.
When it comes to beer triggering gout, the sugar is almost like a red herring compared to the purines. It's that big of a difference.
Exactly. It's a sideshow, really.
Yeah.
The primary driver, the engine pushing up uric acid levels from beer, is unquestionably that direct purine to uric acid conversion pathway. While it's wise to be mindful of overall sugar intake for health and weight, don't let it distract you from the main villain in the beer gout story.
It's the purines. Got it. That distinction is paramount for actually managing this effectively.
Absolutely. Focus on the purines, to the science behind the flair. Multiple pathways to gout from beer.
Okay, we've established that what purines are the key villain. Alcohol is a significant accomplice. But for our listeners, I think understanding the how can be even more empowering.
Agreed. Knowing the mechanism helps.
So now that we've busted the myths, let's pull back the curtain. Let's peek inside your body. What exactly is happening, molecularly, cellularly, when you drink traditional beer that triggers gout? What are the biological dominoes falling that lead to that awful joint pain, the mobility issues.
This is absolutely critical. Understanding the exact mechanisms is fundamental to making truly informed choices and managing gout effectively. Traditional beer triggers gout through multiple interconnected pathways. It's like a multi-pronged attack on your uric acid levels.
Perfect storm, almost.
In a way, yes. But, and this is vitally important, they definitely aren't all equally important. There's a clear hierarchy in their impact. Recognizing this hierarchy is what guides our recommendations.
Okay, so let's break down these pathways. What's the main one? A, primary mechanism. Direct purine content, high impact.
The dominant factor, the one that truly drives the bulk of beer's overwhelming impact on gout. It's that inherent, significant purine content.
Comes back to the purines again.
Always. During the brewing process, which is fascinating in itself, the nucleic acids naturally present in the malted barley, and crucially, in the yeast used for fermentation. They break down. They break down into various purine compounds. The most significant one for us, the primary one we worry about, is called guanosine.
Guanosine, okay.
It's abundant in beer, highly problematic for gout sufferers.
And once these purines, especially guanosine, get into your system, what happens then?
They are directly metabolized into uric acid by a specific enzyme in your body called xanthine oxidase.
Xanthine oxidase. Sounds important.
Think of it as your body's uric acid factory. When it sees these purines, especially guanosine from beer, it gets to work, converting them directly into uric acid.
And you mentioned the levels in beer are high.
Extremely high. We're talking regular beer containing, on average, over 400 milligrams per liter of purines.
400 milligrams per liter. Just imagine pouring that much potential uric acid into your system.
Exactly. This exceptionally high concentration creates a massive, almost overwhelming uric acid burden, especially for someone whose system already struggles to process or excrete uric acid efficiently.
So for gout sufferers, it's not just a drink, it's like pouring highly concentrated fuel on a fire. It almost guarantees a flare for many.
It pushes their uric acid levels beyond the saturation point, where crystals start to form in the joints. That's the pain.
Right, okay, so that's the primary mechanism, huge impact.
Yeah.
What else is going on? B, secondary mechanisms. Alcohol metabolism, medium impact.
So while the direct purine load is number one, the alcohol itself, the ethanol, also contributes significantly. It's a secondary role, but still very impactful. And it does this through two distinct problematic pathways that basically compound the problem. It makes traditional beer particularly potent.
Okay, two pathways from the alcohol itself. What's the first one?
First, we have something called accelerated ATP degradation. ATP, adenosine triphosphate. That's the energy currency of your cells. Powers everything.
Right, cellular energy.
When your body metabolizes ethanol, the alcohol in beer, it actually speeds up the breakdown of your body's adenine nucleotides. These are the very building blocks, the precursors, that eventually get converted into uric acid.
So drinking alcohol makes your body break down its own stuff faster, leading to more uric acid.
Essentially, yes. This process alone can boost your body's uric acid production by a staggering 170% of your baseline levels.
170%. Just from processing the alcohol.
That's what studies suggest. It's a substantial increase in production, even before you factor in the purines from the beer.
Wow. Okay, that's pathway one. What's the second way alcohol makes things worse?
Second, and this is equally problematic, is how alcohol metabolism produces lactic acid.
Lactic acid, like from exercise.
Similar compound, yes. And this lactic acid then directly competes with uric acid for excretion by the kidneys.
Competes? How?
Your kidneys are responsible for filtering out waste, including uric acid. But when lactic acid is present in higher amounts, it essentially gets priority in the excretion queue. Uric acid gets pushed back.
So less uric acid leaves the body because the kidneys are busy dealing with lactic acid from the alcohol.
Exactly. So alcohol creates this classic double whammy. It increases the production of uric acid through ATP breakdown, and it simultaneously decreases your body's ability to efficiently eliminate it through kidney competition.
Production up, elimination down. That's a really bad combination for gout.
A truly challenging metabolic combination for anyone trying to keep their uric acid levels down and prevent those debilitating flares. C minor mechanism, fructose effects. Low impact.
Okay, so we have the massive purine hit and the double whammy from alcohol metabolism. Is there anything else? You mentioned sugar earlier.
Right. Finally, we have a minor mechanism. This relates to those small residual amounts of sugars, particularly fructose, that might be present in beer. These sugars can activate what's known as the fructose pathway, and this pathway can lead to a slight increase in uric acid synthesis, often through its impact on ATP metabolism, similar in a way to what we saw with alcohol, but much smaller scale.
So a similar process, but just much less significant.
Exactly. Honestly, compared to the overwhelming direct purine content and that dual compounding impact of alcohol metabolism, this contribution from sugar is truly minimal.
Like a footnote compared to the main chapters.
A very small footnote, yes. It's really the purines that are the undeniable star of this particular negative show. They're the primary antagonist you need to focus on when thinking about beer and its specific impact on gout.
Good to know. So while watching sugar is generally healthy, for beer and gout, don't let it distract you from the main culprit, the purines, amplified by the alcohol.
That's the key takeaway on mechanisms. 3, navigating your choices, a gout risk assessment for beer types.
Okay, so we've dug deep into the science. It's fascinating, maybe a bit alarming for traditional beer lovers.
Understandably.
We know purines are the main driver, alcohol makes it worse. So does that mean all beers are just equally bad? Is it a level playing field of risk?
Yeah.
Or are there some that are demonstrably less risky? This is the burning question, isn't it? For anyone who genuinely enjoys beer, or for caregivers trying to find suitable options.
Absolutely. People want to know if they have any options.
Especially if you're trying to manage gout without feeling completely unfairly deprived.
And this is where the science gets really practical. It offers real, actionable insights for you, our listeners, especially if you're managing gout or caring for someone who is. The good news, and there is good news, is that no, not all beers pose equal risks.
Okay, that's helpful.
Scientific analysis, looking closely at composition, brewing methods, purine levels, alcohol content, it reveals a clear hierarchy of risk. So we've assigned I-score, sort of a risk rating, from 1 to 10. 10 is the highest risk for triggering gout.
A gout risk score for beers. I like it.
It combines the purine content and the impact of the alcohol. Understanding the spectrum can genuinely help guide your choices, allow more flexibility, and hopefully lead to fewer painful flares and better mobility.
All right, let's hear the breakdown. What's at the top? The highest risk.
Yeah.
Highest risk. Second 5, 5, 10.
Okay, right at the top of the scale. Scoring a perfect 10 out of 10 for gout triggering potential. These are the ones to be most wary of. First, high alcohol beers. Typically anything over about 6% ABV.
Why are they the worst?
They just dramatically amplify all the gout triggering mechanisms we discussed. More alcohol means more accelerated uric acid production, less efficient kidney excretion. It compounds the purine issue significantly.
Makes sense. More alcohol, more problems. What else is decent 10?
Also squarely in this highest risk category, bottle-conditioned beers.
Bottle conditioned. What are those exactly?
These are often craft or artisanal beers. They undergo a second fermentation right there in the bottle. This means they contain living yeast sediment at the bottom. That living yeast, combined with their often already high purine content from the grains, creates the maximum possible risk. The yeast itself is a source of purines.
So it's like a double dose of purines plus the alcohol. A perfect storm indeed.
It's essentially a purine powerhouse, potentially still actively producing uric acid precursors, maximum risk, B, high-risk score.
Okay, so that's the absolute peak risk. What's just below that, still very high risk.
Moving down just slightly, but still firmly in the high-risk zone with a score of 9 out of 10 are your dark beers. Think stouts, porters.
The rich dark ones, why are they so high?
They often contain around 13.5 milligrams of purines per 100 milliliters, which is quite high. This higher purine load typically comes from their concentrated brewing processes and the specific types of heavily roasted malts and grains used.
Like how darker roasted coffee might have different compounds.
Similar idea. These darker, richer beers just naturally carry a higher purine load from their ingredients. Their deep color and robust flavors can actually be indicators of that higher purine content. They're definitely problematic for gout.
C, medium high risk, score, 7, 10.
Okay, from 10 and 9 down to 7. What falls into the medium-high risk category?
Next, with a score of 7 out of 10, we find your regular lagers and pilsners.
So like standard everyday beers for many people. Exactly. Probably the most common and widely consumed types of beer globally. They have what we'd consider standard purine content, usually ranging from about 7 to maybe 9.8 milligrams per 100 milliliters. And on top of this, of course, you still have the alcohol effects contributing to the uric acid burden.
So, still a significant risk.
Oh, definitely. Wheat beers also typically fall into this category. The grain-derived purines in wheat beers create a very similar risk profile. So while maybe not quite as potent as the dark beers or the high ABV options, their sheer ubiquity means they're often the most common culprits for gout flares if consumed regularly. Still a very significant risk. D, medium risk, score 6th century.
All right, moving down the scale. Medium risk, A 6 out of 10. What fits here?
Light beers. Typically, these are beers characterized by an alcohol content under 4% ABV.
Okay, so less alcohol should mean less risk, right?
It means reduced alcohol effects, which is a small positive. Yes, less impact on production and excretion from the alcohol itself. But their purine levels are generally still standard. The light label primarily refers to calories and maybe alcohol, not purines.
Ah, so light doesn't mean low purine. That's a key point.
Crucial point. Don't be fooled by the light label if your main concern is gout. The intrinsic purine content from the brewing ingredients, the malt and barley, is largely still there. You might reduce the alcohol's impact slightly, but the direct purine load remains a substantial factor. E, low risk. Score, 3/10.
Okay, now we're getting somewhere potentially better. Low risk, a 3 out of 10. What's in this group?
Many non-alcoholic beers fall into this category.
Ah, but wait, we talked about the concentration issue.
Exactly. They certainly have lower or zero alcohol effects, which is beneficial regarding uric acid production and excretion. That's why they score lower than light beers. However, and this is the big caveat we hit on earlier, many traditional non-alcoholic beers still contain concentrated purines due to that dealcoholization process.
Right, the liquid is reduced, but the purines hang around, maybe even more densely packed.
Precisely. So caution is definitely still needed here. You absolutely cannot assume all non-alcoholic beers are safe for gout just because the alcohol is gone. You must look deeper. Many can still pose a significant purine challenge. F. Minimal risk. Have found it in 10.
Okay, we've gone from 10 down to 3. Is there anything lower? A
No.
1 out of 10, minimal risk.
Yes. And this truly is the game changer. Scoring a minimal risk of just 1 out of 10, Japanese zero purine beers.
0 purine, not just low, but zero.
Virtually zero, yes. These are not just beers that happen to be lower in purines. They are specifically engineered using innovative technology to be almost completely purine-free.
Wow.
This is the category that offers a genuine revolutionary solution for gout sufferers who miss enjoying a beer. It provides a pathway back to enjoying that experience without compromising your health goals.
This sounds like the real breakthrough.
It absolutely is. This is where science truly meets lifestyle needs for people with gout. 4. The breakthrough. Japanese zero purine beer technology.
This is truly incredible news. A minimal risk beer category, practically 0 purines. This sounds like, honestly, a dream come true for so many gout
Well,
sufferers.
it really is a paradigm shift.
Something totally unimaginable just a few years ago. It offers so much hope to people who felt they had to completely give up beer because of the relentless pain, the severe mobility limitations gout can cause. What is the secret? What's behind this remarkable Japanese innovation? How did they manage to crack this code, achieve what seemed impossible?
It's a fantastic story of targeted science. This is where cutting-edge biochemical understanding directly translates into profound hope and really the dawn of a new era for beer enjoyment for those with gout. Japanese brewers have genuinely revolutionized beer production, creating options specifically for gout sufferers through breakthrough enzymatic technology.
That was everything.
It's a remarkable example of targeted innovation addressing a significant health challenge. It shows how understanding biological pathways can lead to life-changing products. A. How zero purine beer is made.
So how do they do it? What's the actual process?
Okay, the key innovation, the scientific breakthrough at the heart of this, involves a very specific enzyme. It's called purine nucleoside phosphorylase, or just PNP for short.
PNP. And where does this magic enzyme come from?
What's truly fascinating is the source. It's derived from a very common, everyday mushroom, Agaricus bisporus.
Wait, the standard white button mushroom,
Mm.
the kind you get at the grocery store.
That's the one. It's a testament to how natural solutions, when applied with precision engineering, can solve complex biological problems.
Amazing. So they use this mushroom enzyme.
How? During the traditional brewing process, specifically during a crucial stage called saccharification.
That's when starches turn into sugars, right?
Exactly. During that stage, they treat the wort, that's the liquid extracted from the mashed grains before fermentation, they treat it with this specific PNP enzyme. And this remarkable enzyme performs a sophisticated dual action.
Little action, okay.
First, it actively reduces the purine nucleosides, those precursors to uric acid, by over 33%. Significant reduction right there. But it also, quite cleverly, simultaneously increases the yeast's natural ability to use up any remaining purine bases during the later fermentation stage.
So it cuts down the precursors and helps the yeast clean up the rest. That's smart.
It's a powerful 1-2 punch. It works synergistically to virtually eliminate purines from the final beer.
Wow. But Does it taste weird? Does it mess up the beer?
That's the amazing part. Here's the bonus that makes this truly a game changer. They've managed to achieve all of this while maintaining the beer's full, authentic flavor profile.
No way.
Yes. And in some cases, they've found it even subtly improves the alcohol content slightly by about 3.6%.
So you get real beer taste, maybe even slightly better efficiency, without the gout trigger.
Precisely. It's not a compromised product. It's a genuine, high-quality alternative engineered for safety. B, available zero purine options.
Okay, this technology is incredible. Are these beers actually available? Can people buy them?
Yes. Thanks to this technology, Japanese brewers now offer multiple truly gout-safe options, and they are genuinely transforming lives for people who thought beer was completely off-limits due to gout pain and suffering. These aren't just lab experiments, they are real products on the market, making a tangible difference.
That's fantastic. And the even better news is you're saying they're becoming more accessible, not just in Japan.
Increasingly so, yes. They're moving beyond just specialty markets. For example, you've got Kirin Zero.
Kirin Zero, okay.
It's marketed as 100% purine-free, comes in at a very sessionable 3% ABV, so it's quite light. Good for those who prefer that.
100% purine free. Wow. What else?
Then there's Sapporo Zero, also boasts 100% purine-free status, and they thoughtfully offer an alcohol-free version too.
Oh, good. So you have an alcohol-free, purine-free option there.
Exactly. Gives you even more choice depending on your preference or needs. Asahi W Zero is another excellent choice in this category.
Asahi W Zero.
Also 100% purine-free, and importantly for some, it's 0% alcohol. Ideal if you need to avoid alcohol entirely for other reasons.
Perfect. Any others?
And there's also Tanqueray W Double. This one is a remarkable 99% purine-free innovation, still incredibly effective.
99% is pretty darn close.
It really is. Shows ongoing refinement. These products are increasingly available online, through import specialists, and in some larger, well-stocked stores. They represent the first genuinely safe beer options for gout management in history.
This is truly an aha moment for our listeners, isn't it? A clear, scientifically backed path to enjoying beer again without that constant fear of agonizing pain and flares. It's like freedom through science.
That's a great way to put it. V real-world impact, clinical evidence supporting the science.
Okay, expert, this all sounds incredibly promising. The science behind zero purine is compelling. Having actual products is fantastic news. But what does the real-world evidence say? Have these findings been backed up by big studies, clinical trials?
Crucial question.
Yeah. Because when you're managing a chronic condition like gout, something that can severely impact your mobility, your quality of life, you want to know the advice, the solutions are truly robust, reliable, evidence-based.
Absolutely. And it's essential to look directly at the data to fully appreciate the implications. How does this science translate into practical benefits for gout sufferers day to day? The clinical evidence is remarkably clear. It consistently reinforces both the unique risks of traditional beer and, conversely, the profound promise and safety of these new zero purine innovations. The research strongly validates what we've been discussing.
Okay, good. So let's look at that evidence. What kind of studies are we talking about? Epidemiological studies.
Well, first, those large-scale epidemiological studies, the ones looking at huge populations over long periods. They give us powerful insights into associations between lifestyle and disease. For example, the seminal UK Biobank study, a massive undertaking, meticulously involving over 400,000 participants.
400,000 people, that's huge.
It is, and it found a very strong, statistically significant, clear association between traditional beer consumption and a higher gout risk in both men and women.
Not just a small finding, then. A profound, consistent trend.
Exactly, observed across an immense, diverse demographic.
And what's particularly striking, I think, and quite sobering about that UK Biobank study, you mentioned earlier that traditional beer showed the strongest association per serving compared to any other alcoholic drink.
That's correct. Per unit of consumption, traditional beer consistently emerged as the most problematic in that data set. It showed the highest correlation with new gout diagnoses.
Wow. Out of everything, wine, spirits, different beers, traditional beer was #1 for risk per serving.
Yes. It really underscores just how uniquely challenging traditional beer has been and why it was so heavily and rightfully restricted in the past.
So this isn't just anecdotes. It's backed by powerful, large-scale population data. Speaks volumes about its distinct risk.
Precisely. B, metabolic studies.
Okay, so the big population studies show the risk of traditional beer. What about studies looking at what happens inside the body, the metabolic effects?
Right. Beyond those large population observations, we have controlled clinical trials and metabolic studies. These look directly at the physiological effects, They're done in controlled settings where scientists can precisely measure what happens when people consume specific beverages. This gives us concrete, measurable data.
And what do they show about traditional beer?
They provide some very concrete numbers highlighting the severity. For instance, one controlled study specifically showed that drinking traditional beer increased plasma uric acid levels by a significant 13.6%.
13.6% increase in uric acid just from drinking beer. That's substantial. That could easily push someone over the edge into a flare.
It certainly could. And furthermore, that same study observed an enhanced 24-hour uric acid excretion.
Wait, increased excretion. Doesn't that sound good? Getting rid of more uric acid.
You'd think so initially. But what it actually confirms is that traditional beer both massively increases uric acid production, so there's more to get rid of, and simultaneously alters kidney function. Your body is trying to excrete more because it's producing so much more, but its ability to do so effectively can be impaired or overwhelmed by the other metabolic effects of alcohol, like that lactic acid competition we talked about.
Ah, I see. So the increased excretion is just a sign of how much extra uric acid the beer is creating.
Yeah.
And the kidneys might still be struggling to keep up.
Exactly. It confirms that dual impact, increased production and altered elimination. It's a complex metabolic cascade that puts immense strain on a gout sufferer's system, makes traditional beer a particularly aggressive trigger.
Okay, the evidence against traditional beer seems pretty overwhelming, both population-wise and metabolically. 6. Practical recommendations for gout sufferers and their caregivers. So, expert, we've covered a lot of ground. The science, the myths, the mechanisms, these incredible zero-purine breakthroughs. What does it all boil down to for you, our listener? Especially if you're living with gout, or maybe helping a loved one manage it.
That's the key question, application.
Our goal here is to empower you. What are the actionable, practical tips we can really take away and use in our daily lives? It's about finding ways to live well, isn't it? To significantly reduce those painful realities, the mobility issues, and to prove that managing gout doesn't mean a bland diet.
Absolutely. The goal is empowerment through clear, practical, evidence-based advice. We want to help you navigate your choices with confidence. Ultimately, it's about allowing for a better quality of life with significantly less pain and fewer mobility problems, making informed decisions that genuinely improve your well-being and maybe restore some joys gout might have taken.
Okay, let's get practical. What are the safest choices? Recommended options. A, safest choices recommended.
Okay, top tier. Your absolute safest choice for beer consumption, the first place you should look if you enjoy beer and want to avoid flares, unequivocally, it's those Japanese zero-purine beers we've discussed.
The Kirin Zero, Sapporo Zero, Asahi W Zero.
Exactly. They are specifically engineered to virtually eliminate the main trigger, the high purine content. They are the game changer for regular enjoyment.
What about other types of alcohol?
For other options, wine, particularly red wine in moderation, has shown those intriguing protective effects in some big studies. So it's a potentially viable, often enjoyable choice for some. Again, moderation is key.
And spirits. Vodka, gin.
Spirits are fundamentally different from beer. They contain minimal purines, typically only 0.2 to 0.7 milligrams per 100 milliliters. Much, much lower than beer. That significantly lower purine load, plus the absence of brewing byproducts like yeast, generally makes them lower risk compared to traditional beer, especially if consumed in true moderation.
Yeah.
B, moderate risk. Proceed with caution.
Okay, so those are the safest bets. What about things that are okay, but need more caution? The moderate risk category.
Right. Here, you need to proceed with caution and real awareness. Light wines might fit here for some. They can potentially be consumed by some individuals, but it's crucial, absolutely crucial, that this is done only with explicit medical supervision.
Talk to your doctor first.
Yes, and involve very careful, ongoing monitoring of your uric acid levels. This isn't a free pass. It's a nuanced option for some, always under professional guidance.
What about those non-alcoholic beers again? Where do they fit?
Back to non-alcoholic beers, remember our earlier discussion. Consume these only if they are specifically labeled as low-purine or ideally zero-purine. Otherwise, many traditional non-alcoholic options, because of that concentration effect during dealcoholization, can actually contain high purine levels. That puts them in a higher risk category, despite having no alcohol.
So reading labels carefully, understanding the type of non-alcoholic beer is paramount. Don't let that non-alcoholic label mislead you.
Absolute critical.
Right.
See, avoid, completely.
All right, now for the hard line. What should people with gout just avoid completely, especially if they're actively managing it or having a flare?
Yes, there are definitely things to avoid completely. The advice here is clear, non-negotiable for traditional options. Avoid all traditional beers, period. This is especially critical during an active flare-up when your body is already under immense metabolic stress and inflammation.
No traditional beer during a flare. Got it.
Also, avoid high-alcohol beverages in general. As we discussed, they powerfully amplify all the gout mechanisms, increasing production, impeding excretion. Very risky.
And those bottle-conditioned ones.
And definitively avoid bottle-conditioned or unfiltered beers. By their nature, they contain living yeast, retain exceptionally high purine content. They sit at the absolute highest risk for triggering an attack. Steer clear entirely for your joint health. D. Timing considerations.
What about medication? If someone's on allopurinol or something similar, does that change things? Can they be a bit more relaxed?
That's a common question. For those of you on uric acid-lowering medications like allopurinol or febuxostat, occasional consumption of some of these higher-risk beverages might be considered. But, and this is a big, but it's a highly individual decision, it should only be contemplated after at least 6 months of stable treatment.
Stable meaning?
Meaning your uric acid levels have been consistently within the target range set by your doctor for at least half a year. And crucially, even then, it must be done with explicit medical supervision and close monitoring. Your doctor needs to be involved in this decision.
So it's not automatic. Medication isn't a free pass to drink anything.
Absolutely not. Common pitfalls are assuming the medication grants complete immunity or not understanding your individual metabolic response. It varies.
However, the truly fantastic news, and this is genuinely liberating, isn't it? For people who thought beer was gone forever.
It really is.
Those zero purine alternatives completely eliminate this risk. They offer a much safer path forward. You don't have to wait 6 months. You don't have to worry and monitor quite so intensely.
Exactly. You don't have to navigate that uncertain territory of, maybe I can have one, but what if?
With the Japanese zero purine options, you have a genuinely safe choice available right now, a reliable alternative. You can enjoy beer without the fear of pain.
It's an absolute game changer for quality of life. It offers freedom and enjoyment where once there was only restriction and fear. 7. The future of gout-safe brewing.
This Japanese innovation is truly groundbreaking, expert. It's already making such a difference. It feels like a whole new door is open.
It really does.
But what does the future hold? Is this just the beginning? Is more research happening? Are we going to see even more gout-friendly options?
Absolutely. The field of brewing science, especially where it intersects with health and nutrition, is constantly evolving, and it offers tremendous hope for even more options and innovations down the line. The success and positive reception of the current zero purine beers have definitely spurred further investigation and development. It's proven this is a valuable area driven by real consumer need.
So what kind of research is happening? A. Ongoing research and development.
While research continues robustly into even more advanced purine reduction technologies, beyond what's currently used. For instance, university teams and corporate R&D divisions are actively developing genetically engineered yeasts.
Genetically engineered yeast for beer.
Yes, yeasts with enhanced purine absorption capabilities. Imagine yeasts specifically designed not just to ferment sugar, but to actively gobble up and metabolize those problematic purines during fermentation.
So the yeast itself cleans up the purines even more effectively.
Potentially, yes, making the process even more efficient at eliminating them. This could lead to broader ranges of purine-free beers.
Wow. What else?
There are also additional enzymatic approaches being explored, moving beyond just PNP. Researchers are looking into other specific enzymes like adenine deaminase and guanine deaminase. These show significant promise for reducing purine content even further, potentially creating more diverse varieties of gout-safe beers, maybe with different flavor profiles, expanding beyond the current Japanese brands.
More variety would be great.
And if you look at patent applications globally, you see details about ongoing innovation in low-purine brewing methods. Things like sophisticated acid hydrolysis techniques. These aim to strategically break down compounds in the mash to increase the ratio of free purines, making them more accessible for the yeast to utilize during fermentation.
It sounds like a really exciting time for brewing science, driven by this need for healthier, more inclusive options.
It really is, driven by a desire to make enjoyable options available to everyone, regardless of health considerations like gout. Conclusion.
So, after all this, what does it truly mean for you, our listener? For so long, people with gout and those caring for them faced that strict blanket ban on beer. It often felt unfair, isolating, maybe like a personal sacrifice.
A huge sacrifice for some.
But this deep dive, packed with the latest science, debunking myths, revealing these true innovations, It unequivocally shows us that the long-standing prohibition is no longer absolute. The landscape has fundamentally shifted.
That's profoundly right. While traditional beers absolutely remain problematic because of their high curing content, the primary mechanism driving flares, pain, mobility issues, these breakthrough Japanese zero-purine beers offer a genuine, scientifically validated, safe alternative. They specifically address the root cause of beer-induced gout. They don't just mask symptoms. This allows real enjoyment without compromising health goals. It's about offering tangible solutions for people dealing with chronic pain.
And this core understanding that beer's gout risk comes primarily from its unique, massive purine load, not really the alcohol or sugar in comparison. That's the true paradigm shift, isn't
It
it?
changes everything.
It redefines the whole conversation. For the first time ever, you have clear, evidence-based access to genuinely safe beer options that fit with your health management. The future isn't about total elimination anymore. It's about education, empowerment, making better informed choices based on solid science.
Indeed. It's about reclaiming a cherished part of your life, a simple pleasure that you might have thought was irrevocably lost due to gout. It's about empowering you to live more fully, more comfortably, with less fear, more freedom.
Thank you so much for joining us on this illuminating deep dive into beer and gout. If you found this valuable, please subscribe so you don't miss our next deep dive. And maybe share it with someone you know who could benefit from this information. Join us again next week for another deep dive into a topic that truly matters to you. Host speaker and expert speaker. Gout management is evolving, and so are your options. There's real hope ahead.